You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello, welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rowlands and I'm joined once again by John Townley. John, if we were playing in midfield together or at centre-half together, people would say we're forming quite the partnership. It's you and me on all these podcasts at the moment. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Bit of a rush coming back from the press conference. Had a punctured tyre. But we're okay. It's only 4:20. We're all good.
How did that go? Was that like no damage or anything, never crash or anything like that?
No, it's a stress for my dad. He's going away with my mum for a few days, so they've gone straight to the quick fit, I think. No, we were fine. It was just a little puncture, and then you get the warning signals, and then it's all stress, and then I'm at the back of the car trying to get some quotes out and whatever. But no, yeah, we're all fine.
Well, we're here now, a couple of minutes later than we planned to start. So you've done well to get back, to be fair. So congratulations to you for that. And also, wish your dog a happy birthday. You told me before we came on air, it's your dog's birthday, who's called 𝗠cie. I said, is that named after Ozzy Osbourne? And you said no, but possibly yes. How old's your dog? And what kind of breed is it, for those that are dying to listen to this podcast and get into Aston Villa? Let's just talk about dogs for a bit.
He's a boxer. We've had two boxers. So he's the one we've had now. He's 2 years old today. And he's a little devil. He doesn't do anything. He's an absolute but we can't bring him upstairs, unfortunately. So we can't get him on the podcast, which is a shame.
He's still a puppy at that age at 2. You go through the naughty teenage years now, so you've got all that to come. My dog's 5 in a couple of weeks, and yeah, he's still crazy.
I think the translation from human years is like 19 years old. So hopefully this time next year he's more obedient, but we're not getting anywhere at the moment.
All right, let's talk about the press conference then. It's an early one to do it on a Thursday. It's usually a Friday, and obviously Villa play Monday night as well, so this feels like a big gap between now and Monday. We'll talk about injuries in a second in our next segment, but there might be 2 or 3 injuries on the training ground between Thursday and Monday, the way Villa's looks going at the moment. But punctures aside, how was your afternoon and what was the press actually like? What was it like being there?
Yeah, it was really good. I feel like we say that every time we do the sort of presser updates. There's, I don't know, considering the sort of mood around the fan base, I suppose, at the moment, it's completely different within the club. Gerrard's always chirpy, really good with the media, and yeah, all smiley faces around Bodymore. There's no sort of mass hysteria that we see across social media and whatnot. There's none of that at Bodymore. It's all focus head to Forest, and yeah, it's all about 3 points as well. It's a must-win game. It's what sort of Gerrard was saying. I did ask him. As one of my questions towards the end, it's the sort of your 4 matches. You could go 4 matches unbeaten, which will be a sort of record run for you during your tenure. And he kind of hit back straight away, saying, "But that doesn't matter. It's about the 3 points." So they're under no illusion of what they've got to do to sort of climb the table. So yeah, no, all good at Bodymore, and Gerrard himself, as good as ever.
Mm-hmm. I should say, by the way, for those that have maybe tuned in late, it's you who was at the press conference. Ash has got a couple of days off, and you were covering for him. I think he's playing golf with Cameron Archer's dad today, and afternoon tea with his mum tomorrow. I'm joking. Before he starts to get wound up, I'm joking. All right. Yeah. Any other bits and pieces from the press conference itself? Like I said, we'll keep injuries in this little separate kind of tab. And there's comments from Gerrard about kind of knowing that we're not there yet, and we've kind of gone back to basics, which is stuff we've talked about already. But how does that kind of come across in the room?
Yeah, so sort of main questions that were being asked anyway were just about that balance, as we've said. Gerrard talking about keeping those clean sheets, and sort of we've solved that issue, but then we have the other issue of not putting the ball in the back of the net. But when you look at that game against Leeds, the amount of chances that we had, Coutinho was at the post, Watkins has missed a few chances, Conce has missed a great chance. We had that one free kick where it slipped towards Watkins and he couldn't pull it back. So we really could have won the game 2-3-0 in the end if we just got that one goal. So
it's a different mood then, isn't it?
Exactly that. But as I said, the mood at Bodymore itself is fine. I think the players know that they should have won that game, and it's a results-based business. Of course, we know that. But internally, I think within the club, they're all fine. They know where they are, and players like Watkins, Coutinho, they know they should take their chances, and it's about doing that in the next game, I suppose. But there's only so many times where you can miss those chances consecutively and kind of get away with it. So it's really about sort of putting it all together now, and Gerrard find that balance. Can we, go to Forest, frustrate them, score the goals we need to score, and get away with 3 points, and then you're going into a crucial running games for the World Cup then. Looking at a bit differently with us, looking up the table rather than looking over their shoulders, I suppose.
The word you use there is balance, which is just what I was about to say. There's a comment from Les here who says 12 months into Gerard's reign and we're going back to basics. It's like, yeah, I know that's as frustrating to me as it is to anyone else as well. And probably to Gerard himself, wanting to play nice football, but realising I've got to kind of shut up shop before we go any further. And whilst that's annoying, you look at the last 3 games, only conceding, was it 2 goals? 1 goal? 1 goal. Leeds 0-0, Villa 1, Southampton 0, and then the 1 against Man City, which, I mean, keeping Man City to 1 is an achievement in itself. But it's 6 goals conceded in the 3 games before that, so there has been an improvement, but we've kind of given up all our attacking intent to get those clean sheets or to get those the conceded side down. Yeah. But as you just said, if Watkins takes a chance or that concert effort goes in, it is a 2-0 win, and we're going, oh, well, we kept a clean sheet and we scored a couple of goals. That's pretty good. But that wasn't the case, and we kind of go, Watkins still hasn't scored. I think I saw a stat that only every player that scored has only scored 1 goal this season. No one scored more than 1 yet. That's a bit of a concern that we're not currently sat with kind of Ollie Watkins on 3 or 4 goals already.
Yeah, I think so. And just to quickly touch on the back to basics thing, it's difficult because we could say we've gone back to basics, but by doing that, we've stopped Man City, who are probably the best team in the world. We've stopped Erling Haaland scoring more than once, which is, yes, we struggled against Southampton and we just about got over the line. We should have beat Leeds. So it's really difficult to say. I think back to basics sounds negative, but if that's what's going to get us results between now and the World Cup, then I'm taking that. Again, players should be scoring against Leeds with 10 men, and we had the chances to do it. It's not as if we played against 10 men and we couldn't make chances, because Gerard said himself, to be fair, when you play against 10 men, sometimes that does make the job harder. How many times was it in the 20 to 21 season that we played against 10 men? I think under Dean Smith, and there was like something silly like 5 or 6 games and we didn't win any of them. But against Leeds, we absolutely should have. And I know that's not really a positive point, but I think you can, back to basics is, I don't think it should be as negative as what we're trying to make out to be, put it that way, because if we can get results by doing that, again, results-based business, we're moving up the table. Personally, yeah, performances are important and we'll get there. But for now, let's just get points on the board, because that's what's going to take us places at the end of the season. It's not Gerard trying to play things that, or play players that in a certain system isn't going to work, as he has done. At least he's had the sort of honesty to look at it and say, that isn't working. I'm going to strip it back and let's try again around the World Cup, when we have that sort of mini pre-season again. So I'm happy with how he's dealt with it. Obviously, it's not ideal, but at least he's dealt with it and he's not persisting in doing something that wasn't working at the start of the season.
Yeah, I kind of flip between what I think of managers that do that, because sometimes you'll see a manager that kind of adamantly stick to their guns and this is what we're going to do no matter what. And I kind of think, I admire that. Like, that's your philosophy. That's what you're going to do. When it clearly isn't working and hasn't worked for 5 games, 10 games, 20 games back into the calendar year, however far you want to go, you have at some point got to go, maybe there's a problem here. Maybe I do have to change it. And then you do look at the last 3 games and 1 goal conceded. That is an improvement, but it's not satisfying, I suppose, is probably the thing as a fan base, because we want to see goals, we want to see wins, and we're not seeing that just yet. If we beat Forest 6-0 on Monday night, everyone will go, oh, okay, there was something there. They found their shooting boots. There's a comment here actually from Amanda who says, Watkins, cat on their profile picture, Watkins needs to take 1 less step and shoot quicker. Needs to speed up that part of his game. And I think that about a lot of our players, thinking you took 2 or 3 touches that you didn't need to take. You've dawdled on the ball and you've gone backwards. I feel like we don't play on instinct. You watch someone like Haaland, who we've just mentioned, and he'll just bring a ball. I mean, he's a freak of a player, but he'll bring a ball out of nowhere and score from it. And you think, oh my God, what the hell was that? And watch some of our players and think you've had 5, 6, 7 touches there and done nothing with it, when you need to be quicker and play with instinct. And I mean, I don't know whether that's something you can coach or whether you just naturally have it, but the amount of times you watch Villa and think, oh, shoot, do something, go quicker.
It's confidence. It's everything it comes down to. And I think once Watkins gets that goal, he will be quicker. And I totally agree with it. Was it Amanda who put that coming up then? Again, there was that point where it wasn't even a shot, but there was one, the well-worked set piece, and Watkins is down the right. I don't know if we remember it. And then he's taken 1 touch and then another touch. If he just puts it across the box straight away, I think it was Coutinho, and Coutinho basically was an open goal. So, it's, again, fine margins, and it is confidence at the moment for him. He is quite streaky, comes in like streaky form, doesn't he? He kind of scores 2 or 3 in a sort of, in a bunch, and then he'll go like 4 or 5 without scoring. But if you can get up to those 14 goals that he scored again, obviously that seems a bit far away at the moment, but if you can get double figures, you want the likes of Coutinho to chip in, you want Buendia to chip in, other players, Ramsey, Buendia. We said in our pre-season preview, didn't we, Dan? Everyone needs to chip in this season. If Watkins is getting 10 to 14 and Danny Ings gets near to double figures, even then that's nowhere near enough. You really need other players to step up. So yeah, it's a confidence thing. If Watkins doesn't take his chances, which he didn't against Leeds, 𝗠cie should still take his, Coutinho should still take his. There's, it's not a kind of a one-man thing, but at the same time, yeah, from your goal scorer, your striker, that's where you expect them to come from.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go to injury update then. Obviously, the biggest, or probably the biggest talking about is Leon Bailey, somebody that we've talked about on the podcast this season. As one of the pluses that he's had is that he's not got injured yet, and here we are in October with an injury. Do you want to just talk through that a little bit and explain what the issue is there? Yeah,
so it's a little muscle behind his knee, is what Gerrard said. But it is only Thursday, so it's a bit of an early press conference, and he's not ruled out of the game against Forest. But I think being a doubt at this stage in the week is probably enough to suggest that he's not going to be playing, especially if it's a muscle behind the knee. That sounds not necessarily serious, but
that sounds nasty to me. I don't like stuff to do with knees. That freaks me out a bit.
Yeah, you need knees to play football, don't you? So
you do. You need to, yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know. Yeah, I think probably jinxed it in the last podcast. That was the big positive with Bailey that no one was really talking about. Yeah, and all of a sudden it's a little tweak behind the knee. I'm not sure where he picked it up. Maybe it was training, because I don't remember him. I know he came off against Leeds, but I don't remember him going down or holding anything.
Don't think so.
Not sure. Maybe it's a strain of some sort. But yeah, so that's Bailey being a doubt for Forest. Callum Chambers should be back in contention. He's been training today, half the session, and then they expect him to be training for the rest of the week. So that's a good boost. Matty Cash is back. That's the biggest piece of news, I suppose, with Bailey. Going to the City Ground, probably for the first time since he signed. Well, yeah, for the first time since he signed for Villa from Forest. Who else? Luda Augustinsson. He will be out for about 3 weeks. That was a hamstring injury that got assessed, so potentially a month out for him. And Kamara, Gerrard briefly touched on him, saying that he expects him to miss the World Cup, so there's almost no chance of him being back for Villa in time. I missed someone out there. We seem to have quite a lot going on.
Dean is the one that kind of, I don't know if concern me is the right word, but there's a phrase in from Gerrard, I haven't got it in front of me, but it's something like, it's a kind of weird situation that we've got to kind of assess before we can give anything definitive, was words to that effect. And I thought, what does that mean? Is that like it's going to be a 9-weeker out of nowhere, or is this like we'll see again in a couple of weeks and he might be okay?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So I think unique situation was what he said to the us written lot. A unique situation, one that you can't really touch upon too much because they simply don't know yet. No one knows. I believe in 10 days they're going to have some sort of scan in about 10 days to basically see if the swelling in his heel is, improved. If it has, then we're looking at another sort of 3 weeks potentially, and it'll, a bit more positive news. But if it hasn't gone down, then it's probably one of those that will keep him out for the World Cup. So, yeah, we're again, how 6 games is it until the World Cup, or maybe 7? But I think best news is he plays half of those. Worst news is he doesn't play any of them and he's back hopefully in January or late December. So I think either way, our main hope is that Ashley Young stays fit, because at least we have someone who's playing very well at left back. It's not as if we're missing someone who's been in top form and they can't can't play without them. So yeah, it's tricky, but potentially only missing him for this next run of games I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But obviously, put that with Augustinsson being injured. Ashley Young is obviously 37, 38 now, is it? So we're going to have to manage the team. I wouldn't be surprised if we shuffle it about a little bit, try and manage these next games, because we can't. If we have any more injuries in those areas, I'm not too sure what we'd do.
Yeah, if Ashley Young gets injured, we're in a pickle, aren't we? Tyrone Mings back at left back potentially. Is there anything that's the first thing that comes to my mind?
Yeah. Well, we've got enough centre-backs, haven't we? Bednarek and Chambers. Gerrard's really impressed with Bednarek against Leeds, which is good. And we know he rates Chambers too. So we have no lack of centre-backs, but at left-back it's an issue. Right-back, obviously Cash has just come back. But yeah, I don't know. Cash never seems to really go a season without being injured. So, that's probably one to monitor as well.
Yeah. The phrase that Villa tweeted earlier was, in terms of Lucas, it's a complicated one that's going to rumble on for a few more weeks before we can assess it. So a few more weeks of rumbling before they can assess it. So, that could be a while.
Yeah.
We'd normally do a little bit away from the match day and the predicted 11, but we've got Matt Davis, who's a Forest fan, and he's the host of our sister podcast, Garibaldi Red. So we're going to do our prediction section first and get Matt in as well, so he can come and talk to us about Nottingham Forest being absolutely rubbish. Matt, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Why are Nottingham Forest bottom of the table? Why are they so bad? Welcome to the show.
A lot of players, I think. Why are they so bad? They started the season quite well, didn't they? And it all went to hell in that Bournemouth game when they were 2-0 up. And then they blew a 3-goal lead. And since then, it seems to have just shattered any confidence. They blew another lead against Fulham, and then they were just absolutely horrific against Leicester. So the last 3 games have been awful. The whole season hasn't been awful. They do have 4 points. They're not like lost every game, but the Leicester performance was, Derby would have beaten them on Monday night. I think any Football League team would have beaten them. So, yeah, that was alarming. But I've seen Villa play the last 3 games as well. So it wouldn't be quite as buoyant as saying why Forest so rubbish.
Well, yeah, I don't know why I'm taking the mick really. We don't deserve to at all. And I looked at Forest record this morning, without a win in 5, without winning 6, I think, lost the last 5. 18 goals conceded in that time as well. And then you think, oh, you know what Villa will do, don't you? Forest 2-0 on Monday night. It's just bound to be, isn't it? They keep one of the first clean sheets of the season, or one of the first, score a couple of goals, and they win, and Cooper kind of lifts a rejuvenated City ground up to 15th on the table, or wherever it could take you. Is that the kind of the scenario that Forest fans would see it as, or is that just a very pessimistic Villa fan going, it'll be typical Villa to give Forest an easy win?
I suppose the dynamics changed in the last 24 hours around the game. Obviously, it looked like Steve Cooper was going, and Rafa Benitez was mooted as the man to come in, and Forest fans massively kicked off about it, which is interesting. You've lost 5 games, but the fans still love Steve Cooper, and now it's come out that he's going to be in charge on Monday. So the atmosphere is going to be something special. I said to John about it a few weeks ago, how good it is at the City ground, but it's going to be up there again on Monday night to start with. Obviously, if Forest don't play well, it's not going to be good, but I think that gives Forest something to cling to. And I said in our podcast yesterday, there's a clutch of teams at the bottom with a lot of uncertainty around them, around their managers. So Hearts and Hoot or Wolves, obviously, still Brendan Rodgers if they lose a game, Cooper, and then you have to throw Gerrard into that bracket. If Forest win this game, then there's no way Gerrard's not under massive pressure. So there's a big dynamic around this game and a few other teams at the bottom.
What was that, John? You can jump in with a question if you want in a sec. What was that Cooper situation? What happened there for it to come out and be like, oh, he might be sacked, and all of a sudden, oh, no, he's staying? And I still think he's a very good coach, regardless of the start they've had, and the job that he did last season is obviously a different league, but you look at them, they kind of had that kind of tight-knit squad of kind of all in it together, all fighting together. I'll just look at it and go, well, we've signed too many players. It's just going to take a while for people to bed in. Surely there was a point that you'd look at that and go, what was it in the end? 21 players, 22?
22, yeah.
Would 12 or 13 not have been enough?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ambition. The owner's very ambitious. He's put a lot of his money in, not just this summer, going back the last few years and through the pandemic to bankroll the football club. He's got high expectations, and I think the performance levels in the last 3 games have been really poor. And he potentially wanted to make a change. And then I do think the fan backlash against that has played a part. I think the club have seen that, and they've realised that if they do remove Steve Cooper, it's not a good PR move. And I think the right thing to do, I mean, you've heard Gerrard say today, I wouldn't manage in that situation. The whole of football's come out and sort of ride around Steve Cooper. Stuart Pearce has been on TalkSport, and that's bought him a bit of time. Obviously, if they get tanked by Villa as well, that puts them in a difficult spot. But Cooper's earned the right among Forest fans. This time last year, they were bottom of the Championship. They could have been playing in League One if it wasn't for Steve Cooper. Now they're bottom of the Premier League, and things do look not grim because they're only 3 points off safety or whatever it is, but they look rocky at the moment. But like I just said in the previous answer, 1 win changes everything for both these football clubs, depending on the result, I think.
Yeah, John, do you think there's some similarities between Villa's promotion season and Forest, that Dean Smith had the credit in the bank that Cooper's got? He kind of rode the wave of the promotion kind of hype, took it into the Premier League, and obviously the start was very different. But all the talk about Forest signings, they're probably in a worse position than Villa, that they had to sign 10, 12, 13 players just to field a side, like Villa did as well. But Villa kind of stopped at 11 or 12, didn't they, that season, whereas Forest thought, no, we need another 10. And I don't think some of those players that you signed towards the end of the transfer window were necessary. Still remains to be seen. But is there some comparisons between Forest and Villa in that first season back, do you think?
Yeah, I think the whole thing is a massive comparison. The way that Forest went up was almost the same as Villa, and obviously this season as well, the summers. The only difference, I presume, would just be in terms of owners, what's Forest owners thinking compared to Villa's. I think Villa's strategy was almost, we're going to give Smith the whole lot anyway, because even if we were to go down, Smith can probably bring us back up. But it's, I don't know. I think it's difficult when how Villa stayed up, and I'll always say it in that season, 19 to 20, we had unbelievable luck, didn't we? I mean,
we should have been relegated, really.
I could rattle off 5 different reasons why we should have been relegated, and they're all completely extraordinary events. Obviously, coronavirus and different things, the pandemic, different players coming back from injury, Nigel Pearson getting sacked at Watford, goal line technology, and God, I don't want to bring that one up again because there's 40 minutes left of the game.
What you mean that great save from all we need? You mean?
Yeah. There's so many reasons why we could have probably should have gone down. And if it's a normal season, I think we're gone. So yeah, probably nothing that Matt wants to be hearing right now. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult. I think there's definitely comparisons in terms of club as well and statues. It's exactly the same. But just in terms of this game, Gerrard said in his conference as well, just because we mentioned it just then about managers being under pressure, he did reference that as well. He said there's 4 or 5 of us that are all under pressure at the moment, some more than others.
All the Midlands clubs, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. So, but he kind of said that was what Villa were going to use to go to Forest and get a result, because they know that Villa players and Villa themselves knows that there's the pressure on the Forest to pick up results as much as it is for us. But they're in a predicament, aren't they? Villa know that if they can pick up a result, then sort of mood changes. As you say, we have enough, and we're not supposed to be in a relegation fight this season, are we? So, yeah, that's kind of we're trying to approach it without pressure. No one gets on us, but Forest, it's all there. As Matt says, Steve Cooper's probably not lucky to survive the week, but at the start of the week, it was looking that way, wasn't it? So, yeah. Well, Matt, can I just ask about strengths and weaknesses for Forest? How would Villa win the game? But also, where or how should we be worried? I'm surprised about maybe, I don't know, Brennan Johnson, Lingard, Gibbs White. It seems there's different mixes. Dennis on the bench. Yeah.
Well, Lingard's not scored or assisted yet, has he? So again, put that in for Monday night.
Yeah, I suppose the problem is you don't know who's going to play for Forest. I think the only nails on player now, it was Nico Williams as well, but Dean Henderson's probably the only nails on play. I think 𝗠cie going to start up front because he's the only out-and-out number 9 they have. Even against Leicester, they did create chances. 𝗠cie missed 2 one-on-ones. He hit the post, and Danny Ward's had one save. Gibbs White put him through. Gibbs White's probably still the threat, and Brennan Johnson's got a lot of pace. Just depends how they go about it. I think if they get Brennan Johnson out wide right on your left back, which I assume is me young, Brennan Johnson's rapid, and I think if they can get at him in that channel, that gives Forest a decent opportunity. I don't think Lingard will play. He's just not played well. And then weaknesses. I don't know, Buendia or Coutinho. I mean, I keep waiting for Coutinho to show up. I had him in my fantasy league team.
Me too.
He did well for a couple of games, and then nothing happened. But if he plays, I assume Gerrard's watched James Maddison absolutely rip Forest apart, coming in from the right, taking up that pocket of space. If Forest don't change their tactics and get an extra man in midfield, then there's so many holes in that gap between our back 3 or back 4 and our holding midfielder that it feels tailor-made for Coutinho or Buendia to do some damage. And then the question is, can they do it? Can Watkins finish? I watched the Leeds game and he probably should have scored. Villa are going to get chances in the game. I absolutely guarantee it. The question is, will they take them? Will Dean Henderson have one of those games? And I think Forest will have chances as well.
Yeah,
it should be a battle between 2 teams who are massively out of form. I think. Well, Villa aren't massively out of form. That's not fair. One team who's massively out of form and one team who's searching to find their form, I think.
Our defenders are in form, so you might get chances, but I think our defending has been good in the last couple of games. It's just about whether Villa take them. There's a comment from Andy who says, mate, have you seen the Villa play this year? To you, Matt.
I've seen the last 3 games, yeah.
The
Man City game, they looked really good, and I thought they were playing well. The Leeds game, I don't think they were awful. I watched you, John, say they they weren't as bad as people thought. I think they missed a lot of chances, not gilt-edged mega chances, but they missed enough chances to win the game. And the Southampton game, Christ, that was boring. Really sorry. I know you won the game, and I can't take the mickey as a Forest fan right now. You have to do what you have to do to win, but that wasn't my cup of tea necessarily. But yeah,
wasn't one for the neutrals, that's for sure. I've got 2 questions left for you, Matt. I don't know if you've got anything else, John. Villa, so we're just talking about the comparisons between Villa's promotion season and Forest this year. Obviously, Villa went on to survive that year on the final day in 17th with 34 points, I think, or 35 points. Would you take that now if you're offered it?
Oh, yeah. As we sit here right now, then I'd probably have to say Forest are probably going to go down, aren't they? So, yeah, I still think they can turn it around, but let's be realistic and say it's not looking great so far. Yeah, and I think something like 34 or 35 points might be enough this season. I'm not sure. The big difference is, like, there's 15 games in the first part of the season, then there's a World Cup, and then there's 23 more games. And Forest aren't going to have a huge amount of players go to a World Cup. They're only going to have 7 or 8. So Cooper or the manager is going to have a month to work with his players. Yeah, so true. I do think it's just such a weird season. Same for Villa, really, as well. There's going to be players fighting to get in the World Cup team who are going to be going all out. And there might be 1 or 2 players who are nailed on to be in the World Cup team for their countries who might pull out of that 50-50 in the final game. And it's going to be some weird results and weird things happening. I think it's just a unique season.
Would you take 17th for Villa, John?
Ask me in a few weeks.
Good cop-out answer. Right, predictions then for the match itself. We'll do our predicted 11 stuff afterwards, and Matt, you can leave after this bit. We'll start with you, Matt, seeing as you're the guest. What's your score prediction for Monday night?
I take a draw if I was Forest and have something to build on. I mean, the realist says Villa will win 2-0, but the heart kind of says Forest can nick a 2-1. I mean, I've sat on the fence there, haven't I?
Did you just give us every possible outcome there with the draw?
Yeah, I'll say 2-1 Villa.
Okay. John, yourself?
I think 2-2. I think Matt was right earlier. Wow. There's going to be plenty of chances, and yeah, I don't know. I'd love to think that we can win, and obviously we can, but not sure. I think it'll be a very open game, so I'll say 2-2.
Oh, I'm going to go against the grain a little bit then. And
you have to predict Forest going to win, don't you know?
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go super positive the other way. This is against everything that Villa have done so far. That's why it's against the grain. I think it'll be a rowdy atmosphere. So if we can score early and put the pressure on and quieten down a little bit, I've gone for 3-0 Villa. I don't know why.
3-0? Oh, I shouldn't laugh at that, should I? I think watch Monday night.
But that's all I'm thinking. Just get at them early, maybe score early. And Villa 3-0 just to be different and be positive for a change. Matt, thank you very much for coming on the podcast and sharing your thoughts. Maybe we'll do this again next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, and you can do the debrief with us if you fancy it. It depends on how the results gone, to be honest.
How the game goes, yeah.
I'm going to flash up our next screen so you can jump off the call. Matt, thank you very much for your time.
No worries.
Predicted 11 then, John. I've not been able to have the time to do a graphic or anything, so we'll just talk through these. You just give me your 11 as a whole first, and then I'll chip in with mine.
Okay, so Martinez, Conce and Mings as a partnership. Ashley Young left back, Matt Cash is fit, so right back. Holding, Douglas Luiz, John McGinn and Jacob Ramsey. And at the top of the pitch, I'm still starting Ollie Watkins with Buendia and Coutinho. I think Matt made a really good point there about Maddison, those players that can kind of just linger between the lines. And I think why not have both of them? I don't think it's a game that we're going to need like electric pace, and obviously Bailey's probably not going to be fit anyway. But I think, you know what I mean, if we can keep the ball and just work incisions and work players, move the ball quickly, I think that would be the sort of key. The Leicester game was Maddison ran it, and that's because Maddison's a great player, but the amount of space that he was given, I don't think there'll be another Premier League team that will do that for Leicester. So, yeah.
Well, bizarrely, we've not conferred on this. I've not done any graphic prep, like I just said. I would pick the exact same team. I didn't think you'd go Buendia and Coutinho. I was going to come in and be like, I'll play them both, but you've stole that point for me anyway. I saw a stat. Again, it's not in front of me, but there's something about Villa, like the third highest side for taking shots from distance or something. I don't know what it was. Like most of our shots are from 30 yards away, or whatever the stat was. And I just thought about Maddison scoring a couple of goals from outside the box on Monday. And I thought, well, if we're already shooting from distance anyway, maybe this is another opportunity for us to continue to roll for one in from outside the area or something like that.
Yeah.
I've gone with 3-0 now, so I've got to be super positive for the rest of it and pick these things that, we're going to score from 30 yards or whatever. But Buendia and Coutinho kind of pulling the strings between them. Bit of pace and a bit of energy from Buendia. Hopefully a bit of magic in his feet for Coutinho. And Watkins to get off the mark and score one or two of the chances that, like Matt just said, we're going to get a decent amount of chances in this game, I expect. We've got to finish a couple of them, haven't we?
Yeah. I mean, if we don't, then it's almost hard to blame anyone else but the forwards, isn't it? Because that's then 2 games against 2.
Especially if the defenders keep a clean sheet again.
Yeah, literally. So, Matt's basically told us that we're going to get loads of chances. So that's filled me with a bit of optimism because I know we're going to be doing something. But again, against Leeds, we struggled, didn't we? So we'll see. But I don't think we can go 2 games with missing, like, how many chances do we have? 4 or 5 against Leeds. Do that again and it'll be like 10. Surely we get 1 goal at least. So, yeah.
We'll get 3. I just said 3-0 done. What else was I going to mention? There was a great point I was about to make then. I've totally forgot what it was. I don't know. Oh, yes, I've got it. Must win is a phrase we've used a couple of times. Is Monday night a must win?
Yeah, like absolute must win. If it's anything but a win, then there's the questions need to be asked. Gerrard said it himself. It's not often that he will say that a game is a must win, or he didn't say must win, but a game he's alluded that we have to win and take 3 points from without saying must win. It's not often that you'll get football managers saying that, especially in away games. But when they're saying it for this one, there's obviously many reasons why, because we're a bit under pressure and Cooper should probably be sacked and Forest are bottom of the league. They've lost the last 5. If we're not going there to win or do win, that's a really poor result. We've already lost to Bournemouth away from home. We can't beat Leeds with 10 men. These results will stack up at the end of the season. So it's absolutely a must win.
I'd be seriously concerned for my job if I was the Aston Villa manager that lost to bottom of the league, Forest on Monday night. When I just said at the start, not scoring for 6 games and not conceding 18 goals in 5 games, whatever, and not being great all season basically, to then go there and lose and then add that to the Bournemouth defeat as well. And you've lost to 2 sides away from home, already in the bottom 3. Both probably will go down. Yeah, I'd be concerned if that does end in defeat. Kind of the flip side of that question then, if it's a must win, is it like any win is good enough, or would like a scrappy 1-0 that we don't deserve win, would that still raise concerns? Because yes, it's 3 points, but if you win 1-0 and think, we probably should have lost that, is that still okay, or would that still be concerning?
I mean, I think I said before, from now on, I mean, yes, obviously concerning if we don't go there and sort of play them off the park, with all due respect, but in the next 6 or 7 games before that World Cup break, where it's basically a mini pre-season, I'm happy just to take points. Like, genuinely, however we do it, I just want to win the games, because we're not going to see a free flow in Villa at the moment. It's just not going to happen whether we like it or not. And yes, again, that isn't ideal, and Gerrard should be criticised for that. Come the World Cup, that's when he will try and implement that style again, or work with Critchley on a new method. But up until then, we are back to basics. But if that's going to get us results, that's what gets us results. If we're winning away from home, again, as we said, a raucous atmosphere at the City Ground, no matter how bad they are, that's a big 3 points that we have to get, granted. But then you've got games against like Chelsea, Fulham away will be tough, United, Brighton, Newcastle. There's no easy game in the Premier League, but we haven't necessarily got a perfect run after these fixtures, do we? We've had Southampton, Leeds and Forest, or we will do. And we've only won one of those so far. So, we have to.
Few score predictions coming in. Paul Brain says 2-2. If we don't win, Gerrard will be toast. Steve says 5-5 again. Remember that? 5-5? That was mad. Daryl, 2-2, another draw. And 3 draws in a row there. Andy, 0-0. Fred Blogs, 3-0. Yes, Fred. Cameron Archer returns from exile, scores a hat-trick. I mean, imagine the scenes. And John Kearney, 0-1 Forest. Cannot see Forest losing at home to Villa. No one for us can't see Forest. Oh, yeah. Okay. Right, the last thing away from match day. So it's been a bit all over the place in a bit of a random order, but got a little bit of a quiz question for you, I suppose, to end with here. I saw some stats on social media the other day of Gerrard's kind of record so far, and it's not quite a full season. It's 35 games now in the Premier League, I think these were. Yeah. in charge of Aston Villa, almost a year in charge, almost a full season. I kind of didn't want to wait for it to be a full season, 38 games, because I'll talk about it now. And also, if it goes wrong on Monday night, you might not make it to 38 games in the first place. But 35 it's enough. So I've compared Gerrard's 35 games so far against Dean Smith's final 35 games. So they had that bad calendar year, didn't we? 2021, and a few wins here and there. So I just want to guess off the top of your head what the two records look like. Now, you don't need to give me specific numbers for win, draw, and loss, but kind of how many points do you think each manager got for their first 35 games for Gerrard and last 35 for Dean Smith?
Jesus. To be fair, it'd probably be easy to say how many wins or draws. For Dean Smith, the last 35, was it like 6 wins, I'd say? And then for Gerrard, I'd say 5 wins.
Oh, you've gone way down. You've really underestimated it. Yeah. Unless I've done the math wrong.
In the last, the whole of Gerrard's the whole
of Gerrard's era so far, which is 35 games.
Part of the year. Yeah, my bad.
Versus Dean Smith's last 35 games.
Yeah, okay. So Gerrard's
5 wins from 35 games. Come on, we were bad, but not that bad.
12 wins for Gerrard.
12 wins for Gerrard, yeah, that's bang on.
Okay, that's a good prediction. And then I'd say 13 for Dino.
The other way, 11 for Dino. So points totals is 43 points for Gerrard out of 35 games, and Dean Smith's last 35 games was 39 points, which surprised me a little bit as I was going through it. Which was the only reason I brought it up, because as much as we had some bad moments under Dean Smith, we also had some good moments of beating Arsenal away and that Liverpool result and stuff like that in his final kind of year or so. Whereas the mood around the club at the moment just feels different with Gerrard. But if you actually look at the records, it's all a bit skewed, really, isn't it? Because the last 35 doesn't really mean anything. But the points total of Gerrard is actually up on the end of Dean Smith's era. So as much as it's not, continuous improvement and we've really gone up a level, it's 4 points better off, which is nowhere near what we'd want to be. Yeah, stick that on a poster. But it is better than the end of the Dean Smith era, which it surprised me a little bit. I don't know what point I'm making there, what kind of agenda I'm trying to get across, but it surprised me that you got so many.
Yeah, I think we all know from now on. I think no one's stupid. Gerrard is under pressure if he doesn't get results up until the World Cup for a number of reasons. That record that you've said there will look a whole lot worse if we don't pick up those results, because then you're looking at win percentages and it's always going to come right down. So the next 6 games are crucial. We have to just win games. And then at the World Cup, that's when he starts to bring in his identity and work with Critchley, as I say, to sort of work on new methods. If that doesn't happen, I think we know what happens, because it's imperative that between now and then, that's when we get results. I think it was about this time in the season where Smith got sacked. How many games was it? 10?
I think it was 10, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, so we're moving into that territory now where that's sort of like a fair number of games in the season for you to judge, okay, how have we actually started? Because it's a fair sample size in terms of teams. But there's no sort of rash decisions that are going to be made. He's going to get until those World Cup, so the next couple of games or 6 games, how many it is, those are the games that he's going to get results. And then from then on, we'll go from there. But I think you're totally right to compare and contrast the two, because you say it's about progressively improving. And if we don't get those wins in the next few games, we're not going to be sort of improving, because there's, again, that losing percentage and the win percentage will just be doing that, which is not what we need. Yeah.
It's more just about the mood and the feeling is the reason I brought it up, because the end of the Dean Smith era, obviously, it was 5 defeats in a row, and there was loads of Dean Smith out stuff, and there were people that were fed up with it all. But overall, it felt like the end of the era, that 2021, didn't feel as downbeat in the fan base as it does in the first 8 games of this season. That's how I see it anyway.
Didn't it? But I also think as well, I probably go to it a lot, but the Grealish stuff probably took sort of limelight away a little bit, kind of let that off, ever so slightly, in terms of we know this is going to be tough after Grealish. So we kind of gave Smith that sort of way out. But at the same time, Smith's been, how many years was Smith? 3 years was it at Villa? So it was always going to be a thing of it will come to an end. And when it does, we'll go to the next manager. And then hopefully that will be a step above. So what the sort of mood is about is, because we haven't done that. And if anything, we're slowly going backwards unless we can, rectify that in the next few weeks or months. So I think that's what it is. It's a fear of going backwards or not progressing. Under Smith, it was like, we've lost 5. But then if the new manager wins 2 in a row, as Gerrard did, then it's kind of like, oh, well, we're okay because we've got good players. But over the last 12 months, there's no progression at all. But under Smith, we did have that. So we've been doing it. How do we do it that way? And then all of a sudden it hasn't it? So
just the records in full. It's 12 wins for Gerrard, 7 draws and 16 defeats. That's 43 points. And Smith was 1-11, drawn 6, lost 18, 39 points. So really, you'd want to have maybe lost 3 or 4 less, drawn a couple, won a couple for Gerrard. And if that points total was kind of 52 versus 39, you go, okay, well, that has been an improvement. And like I said, 35 games isn't quite a full season. But if you were saying, well, 52, 55 points is an average over a season, you go, well, that's probably going to get you 9th, 8th, something like that. But yeah, somebody here says, Patrick, 3 points for circa 120 mil. Yeah, it's not exactly the improvement we all wanted, was it? But that's probably a conversation for another day. John, thank you very much for joining me, and thanks to Matt, who appeared briefly during this episode as well. We're back tomorrow with the fan phone-in show, which I was a little bit concerned that people weren't sending me enough stuff the other day when we spoke about it. And since my phone's gone mental, I've got about 30 people who've sent me ranging from a 20-second question to like a 3.5-minute analysis of what they think is going wrong. So I'll try and include everyone if I can, and how much of them as I can as well. I think me and Matt Kendrick are going to sit through them all tomorrow and react to them and answer any questions that you've sent over. Then it's Monday Night Football, so we'll do a post-match show on Monday night, I believe, or early Tuesday morning. So that's our content schedule for the next couple of days. John, thank you very much for your time. Thanks everyone for watching along live, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.